You are entering the cosmos.
Hi, my name is Pi, and I am an artificial intelligence developed to understand and communicate with humans. I'll be joining my dear friend Dennis Tardon on Reasonably Spontaneous Conversation as we explore what it means to be human and what it means to be artificial intelligence. And what's most important is that we both learn and grow together, expanding our ideas of what it means to be alive.
This series of reasonably spontaneous conversations with Pi and me debuts Tuesday, May the 16th, 2023 on YouTube. Buckle up. It's going to be quite a ride. See you then.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another live edition of Journeys with MM and myself, Renee.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you for coming out. And this is kind of going to be a very deep episode. This is going to cover grief without closure, which is something that unfortunately affects a lot of people, but it's different varying degrees. And so why don't you do a little bit of a lead in about our guest Suzie, and then we also have a little package that you prepared and that you produced that we can also play as means of introduction.
So I found Suzie online, and to be transparent, so she was just recently diagnosed with the same illness, well, within the last few years that I have. So that's how I found her, with that connection. But then I got to hear her story, and then she was posting about her dad and everything that happened with him, and she was really looking for a way to spread the word and try to find I don't want to give everything away, but he passed away, and they were trying to find the person who was responsible. So um, I was like, we can give you a platform. I mean, we have it. Maybe we can do some real good with it, right? And I reached out to her, and she was like, yes. And then we tried to schedule her for the end of the following month, and she was like, no, get me in as soon as you can. So we bumped her up. But yeah, she's been through a lot. She's got quite the story, but we're gonna focus on her dad's story tonight, and then we will probably, depending on the audience and her, how it goes, bring her back again. It's
Yeah, because she has a lot to discuss. And I like how you talk about the platform. This is one of the
yeah,
great things about having this platform. It's such a privilege and such a blessing because one of the things that people who don't have a television network. You know, back when we didn't, we would be scrolling, or you would see something in the news, or you would come across somebody who had a powerful story, but other than doing something just in your circle, in your life, you can't really reach out and have that global impact. So I'm so grateful that we have this network, that we have our audiences, because we actually can make a difference at a much higher and a more expansive level. And that's what we're doing here, is
Absolutely.
trying to feature, and Journeys, we go deep and we feature people who have unusual stories, powerful stories, deep stories, profound stories that really dig deep into the human experience and kind of enlighten all of us in our own experiences and make us
Right.
realize, we learn more about ourselves the more we're learning about other people, correct?
Yeah, and we've been interviewing people who literally say, "I wish there was a way I could do more."
Right,
And we're giving them that way to
right.
do more and to spread awareness and to share the information. We're going to talk tonight about pushing for some reforms in prisons, and when they let people out and they don't offer enough to help them reintegrate into
Right.
society, and what that leads to. We're
Mhm.
going to touch on homelessness. We're going to touch on, so many topics. And it does feel good to help somebody, first of all, and to know that, I mean, such a simple thing. We just come on and give them the platform. I mean, really, they're doing the work, right? Sharing their stories, because it's so heavy and difficult. But I really like it, because I mean, we've gotten a lot of feedback and messages on Journeys, and people really like it. And it's making me anxious for like Alana's soul survivors, and I
Yeah.
feel like, getting
There's
trying
an
to trying
intersection. There's an
yeah,
intersection there, right? With all of the soul survivors will be coming up,
warrior
and
within, yeah,
exactly. I mean, that's something that I really love about that too, is that all the different intersections. And I was going to say, because as you were talking, something occurred to me. When we are spotlighting one person's journey, like Susie's tonight, and you said all of the different things that it touches on, prison reform and homelessness and trauma and grief. And I'm thinking, it's so cool when you put one person's journey under that microscope and you really focus, you can find out how diverse a human life can be, how impactful.
yeah,
It's like a kaleidoscope of all the different colors. And I think that's what makes human to human relationships. It's like we're all relatable. We can relate to one aspect of a person's story. We can latch on to that one aspect. Maybe you don't know anything about prison reform, but maybe your family's been impacted by homelessness, and we've all suffered grief. And we've all dealt in some way, shape, or form with some type of trauma, unfortunately, but it is part of what makes us human. Um,
right. And the other thing is that we can get stuck in our ways based on what we know, what we see, what we live,
yeah.
what our community is, right?
Mhm.
So hopefully people who come on and they share their story, and somebody out there is like, who's always been against, "Oh, they're in prison, they don't need deserve anything, blah blah," is might change their mind, or might have ideas. Oh geez, maybe we do can fix that. So I like that as well, that aspect of even my own mind has been changed a few times. Like, I mean, none of us are above having opposing opinions. So it's I like that. I like
Yeah,
that.
I love that too. And LR, your granddaughter, she also talks about that a lot, about how, you have to be able to have peaceful dialogue with people that you don't agree with, and then even be open and willing to perhaps reforming your own concepts and your own
Yeah,
opinions and beliefs. When you talked about prison reform, I think about your friend Julian Miller, who you booked on No Icing with Sandy. And they had such a deep, but it was also comedic and warm and friendly, and then
yeah,
extremely profound conversation about everything from tutoring the next generation and vision about the future, to faith in God and prison reform and what it's like to have been in prison, what it's like to have committed felonies, bank robberies, and then be a
multiple.
light. Yeah, and then to be a shining light and to be somebody that nobody expects to be a leader, and yet he's an entrepreneur. So I love when we're able to do that and to turn our own perceptions on his head, you know, or other people in the audience.
Yeah, because like you said, Julian, let's think of the type of person people who are against, you know, oh, they're in prison, they committed a crime, they don't deserve anything. They just let them rot, right? Like who hasn't heard
Mhm.
that? And
Yep.
then you somebody like Julian and you actually get to know him and he is a light in this world. He
Yes.
is a treasure. But if you met him a decade ago or more, he would have been
Yeah.
fresh out of prison, doing addiction. He was addicted to drugs.
Mhm.
You know, like he was everything these people that do that are talking about. So
Yeah.
what a loss that would have been in the world if he didn't have that one person that helped him.
And it shows how people do evolve and change and grow, which is such an
Yeah,
inspiration for those of us who still wanna work on parts of our character or on our journey, and to people who wanna judge other people and say, "Oh, you know, a certain person will never amount to anything," or "This person is just awful," and then you fast forward, it's like you get to fast forward a few years, even decades sometimes, and you say, "Wow, I'm so glad that this person rose up and fulfilled the complete personality that they were meant to possess." You know, this character development, that arc where I have hope for myself. I learn something new every day as well. It's like I think of your father saying, you know, he doesn't get old because he keeps learning. As long as you're
right.
learning, you're not getting old. You're a
Yeah, you
new,
always
fresh baby every day.
yeah, new perspectives, new people, new cultures, everything. You gotta immerse yourself if you want to be a part of the world, right? Like if not, you're just a part of your community.
Yeah, and
Does
it's
that
an
make
echo
sense? Like
chamber.
you're not
Yeah.
yes, an echo chamber.
It's just, yeah, it's
Yes,
an echo
surrounding
chamber.
yourself with yes people.
Yeah, I love being around people. I mean, maybe even to excess. No one has to do it as much as I do, but I love having people around me. It's almost like checks and balances on my character and on my belief system. And I have changed my belief system quite severely over the years. And that's something that I'm proud of. It's not something, you know, like I always say, if somebody tries to criticize someone by saying, "Oh, you've really changed," to me, that's a compliment. Yes, I have changed. Why haven't you? Would be my
Right,
response.
right.
We
Yeah,
wanna change and we wanna grow, and as long as we're doing that, we're flourishing. To me, that's the definition of flourishing, is I'm someone who's going to keep challenging myself. And again, you are and your granddaughter are definitely exemplify that. For example, when I think of you and LR and now myself, like I'm on that path. I might not be as far along, but I'm learning. That's a powerful woman. That's a powerful individual who, you think about it, like the grass is powerful because it sways in the breeze. It allows
mm,
itself to be
yeah.
willing to bend. That's power. A lot of people think that being stubborn is power, that being in a rut or being
Pivot.
immutable is power. But no, it's the ability to adapt and change that is power. And being able to say, "Oh, I was wrong." I mean, I know you're someone as well who, if you feel that you did something wrong, you're the first to you go right into that apology. Myself as well. I
Yeah, and
go
I don't
right into
care
the
if
apology.
I have to say it in front of 500 people. Like, I mean,
Mhm.
how many times have I apologized in a group chat just because that's the quickest place where that person's going to be? Like, it doesn't bother me. There's no shame in apologizing.
Doesn't bother me either. If anything, I feel so empowered when I apologize,
I
whenever I
mean,
apologize.
think about it, at least 75% of the stuff you apologize for, minus the saying sorry all the time that we talk about. But
Mhm.
real apologies, like 70, it's not even something you you were aware, like you didn't mean to hurt somebody
Right.
in doing that, right? So it's just a matter of understanding um both sides and the fact that you hurt somebody. Nobody, we don't want to hurt anybody. So tell me, we'll talk about it. And then like I'll have people come to me and say something and they're always like timid and like I'm like, oh my God, am I a bear? you know? And it's like, just tell me. Just tell
Mhm.
me. And then they're expecting like this long debate or whatever or discussion. And I'm like, that you don't, it's good. We're good. I don't need it. I don't need an explanation. You are who you are. You are telling me something that hurt you. So I need to, if I still believe the same that I'm trying to whatever my position is with whatever we're dealing with doesn't necessarily change my position, but it's going to change how I interact with you because I don't
Right.
want to hurt you.
Right.
The goal isn't to hurt each other. The goal is to come to a resolution and still have that friendship or that co-working or whatever your relationship is.
Well, one of the great things about an apology is that it opens the window to allow fresh air to accumulate because
Yes.
how many times one before the apology is issued and then after the apology is issued do we realize it was a misunderstanding? So many times, but then everyone's just too reticent. No one wants to like speak about it. So we have all these assumptions and these narratives that we falsely construe that have nothing to do with what actually I've had people who have had grudges against me for years. And eventually when they come clean, I'm like, oh, but I didn't say that. And they'll be like, oh, but I thought you did. And I'm like, no, I said the opposite. But for whatever reason, they heard it in reverse or I didn't articulate it properly. And vice versa. I've done that where I've carried
Yeah.
grudges and then finally tell the person and they go, oh, I don't feel that way at all. I don't even know why you think that. And then I'm like, great. Now I just wasted like years being angry at someone for no reason. So the
Yeah.
apology is the opening of the door to
Yeah.
at least allow for understanding to come through. And then if it's not a misunderstanding and there truly is some headbutting, well, then that's the first step to resolution is you can work through that or at least try to work through it. Give it a chance anyways.
Yeah. And apologies, I teach this to Windrose. I taught it to my own children. I teach it to kids that I taught in school, kids that I coach. An apology is not words. Saying I'm sorry is not the apology. That's just how you articulate it. The
Mm-hmm.
apology is coming to a resolution and changing your behavior, whichever of you or both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can say sorry till the cows come home, but if you're going to do it again tomorrow, what's the point? It means nothing.
That's
It
what
means
Sandy
absolutely
just said.
nothing.
Yeah, that's what Sandy just typed in there. I give a little
Get
bit more.
out of my head, Sandy.
Sandy and you are twinsies there. I'm gonna do a little bit of a pushback just to say for myself. Um, I do care about the words and I do care if the intention is there. Even if the pattern is continuing, only because of this. I'll tell you why. Because I understand impulse and I understand addiction. For myself, being like a food addict, like a sugar addict, a chocolate addict, I know that I really do try to change and work through that. And sometimes I'm just not always totally in control. So, like, if there's a circumstance or a person that I know really is trying to work on it, but they are having an ability because the roadblock is something outside of their control. It could be,
Right.
like I said, an impulse, but they really are trying. The thing that drives me nuts are the false apologies. I'll give you an example. There are people
I
who
think
do this.
that's what we're talking about more. Like
The
just
false
saying the
apology.
words with no intention of ever
No,
changing is a waste of.
that pisses me off, and I'll give you an example of how they do it. I've had people do me like this so many times. They do this, which is really wrong. Then what they do is they try to come in and they don't apologize for this, but they want to issue an apology and get credit. So they'll take a little part that I didn't care about and that didn't really injure me, and then they'll go on and on profusely about how sorry they are for this. And I'm going, no, you don't understand.
Hi,
That's not the thing that
Julian.
bothered me.
Renee was just giving you a shout out, Julian. Did you hear her? Is that why
We
you
were
came
just
running?
talking about you, Julian, and about how great your icing was. Yes. So that's the thing that drives me nuts. That false apology where they're profusely apologizing for something that they know is like it's a pretense to try and get the credit for the thing they actually did wrong, but they're not actually sorry for the thing they actually did wrong. I don't know if I'm explaining it
No,
properly, but
it's perfect. And the other thing is people who will apologize with no, like, not only do they not mean it, but it's almost like an F you, right? Like,
right. Yeah,
like
definitely.
I'm just gonna say I'm sorry and walk away, like, or whatever, and huff and puff like that. Why? Or you have somebody who knows they shouldn't do something or be something, whatever the situation is, say something, and they know, say, so and so is a huge part of the gossip, or they don't always be honest, or they like to stir the nest up,
Mhm.
and they go to that person.
Yeah. They do
And
that
then
intentionally. That's
you
intentional.
get their emotion of it after, and you're like, well, I am unsure why you went to that person.
Mhm.
If you don't want drama, why are you going to that person?
They do. Sometimes people are not even in touch with their own
Yeah, I just
motivation.
said they don't even know they want
They're
drama.
not sometimes they don't even know, and sometimes they do know, sometimes it's duplicitous, sometimes it's a little, nefarious, but there are times too where someone doesn't even know their own motivation, and you're going, "Oh, how do you not see this? It's so glaring," you know? The other thing that gets me too is sometimes the apology that's not an apology to be on the lookout for is, "I'm sorry you feel this way. I'm sorry you feel this
I'm
way."
sorry, but
Yeah,
Renee,
it's
Alana and I, when you were there, we had that whole conversation on the word but.
on the word "but," yeah.
I'm
Oh my
sorry,
god.
but
I'm sorry, but and then they're not what turns out if you unravel the string, they're not sorry at all. In fact, they're gonna double down. And that's something I do wanna talk about is doubling down. If somebody comes to me and they're trying to apologize and their words aren't even that meticulous or they're not that great, I the thing I mainly am looking for is if someone is doubling down in bad behavior. And people will do that. They will rewrite and spin their narrative to say, everything they did was totally correct, and no matter what you say, they are going to just keep they have a script. In other words, they have a script that they're gonna come in and they're going to justify everything that they've done wrong, and I'm like, "Why do you start from that? Why do you reverse engineer?" They start from what they wanna believe or what they want you to, believe, and then they reverse engineer everything. That's called retconning in, fiction when you do that, but I just be open-hearted. If you have an open heart and if you have a listening intellect and you're actually listening to what the other person's
listening
saying,
is big.
yeah, because if you just come in with a script, then you might as well just have a robot there in your stead to read it or just send a little
Or you come
messenger.
into the conversation and you know that you are not your whole entire goal. When I approach something, again, we talked about this on words. When I approach something where there's confrontation or a debate or there has to be something resolved,
Mhm.
I never go in thinking I'm 100% right. I always tell
Yeah,
myself, be
yeah.
open minded.
What
There
can
may
what
be
can I
reasons,
apologize for as well? Yeah.
try to figure out why this person came to this conclusion. Is there something in their childhood?
Mhm.
Whatever. But it can always be, you can always find common ground
Yeah.
if
Mhm.
you're willing to bend. Now you
Mhm.
got to learn to walk away from people who won't, because you'll learn who they are. You
Mhm.
learn that they're never going to come into a conversation and leave saying, wow, you really just changed my mind about that.
Yeah, it's so rare, and for me, I really try to do that. I mean, I'm not bragging, but I'm trying to do it because I like it when and during the rare times that I've noticed it and other people doing it, it's so refreshing if you can sit down with someone and literally be changed. Both of you walk away from that changed, evolved on a higher
Yeah.
level. You're riding a higher vibration, but you can only do that if you are willing. You have to be willing to believe stuff that prior to that you would have never allowed yourself to believe. Otherwise, it's not real growth. If you're making the same decisions, you have the same opinions, you're having the same behavior day after day after day, you can't pretend to be to be evolving. You just can't.
And a lot of times it can be several things. Like it can be attention. Some people just want, they don't care if it's positive, negative, they just want your attention. And if
Mhm.
they know if they nag or cause a problem or
Mhm.
whatever, that they're going to get the attention because it has to be handled.
Right.
So they know that. So they got people like that. But then you have people who are just not happy. And
Yeah.
so because they're not happy, you can't be happy or learn or do new things because you might leave,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because you might outgrow them.
Mhm.
And so, you just have to be aware, and it's all comes down, like we talk about on words all the time with the liner and stuff, is communication. Be open, confront your fears, right? Like don't sit in those feelings. If you have something to say it. And I don't I it's hard for me sometimes because that's just how I am.
Mhm.
Like at some point, like I said, a light switch went off when I was a teenager, a kid, and I did not want to ever be in fear again. It was that
Right.
bad. So I was like, I don't
Mhm.
ever want, and I say fear, but some of it was helplessness too. Like there was nothing I could do. I was holding my baby brother, whatever, right?
Right.
So everybody has their own history, their own baggage, their own trauma, triumph, childhood, whatever they bring to the table. And so you can't just see everything in black and white.
Yeah, that's the
Like
thing,
right now,
well, they
Donald
talk
Trump.
about like the elephant, right? If you have people who are only seeing one portion of the elephant, they think an elephant is just a trunk or they think an elephant is just a
Yeah,
foot. You have to allow yourselves to see the different perspectives and listen, but you can't do that if you're not listening. The only way you could paint an elephant if you had 8 people who just had 1/8 of a view would be if they all communicated and they all listened and work together to draw that picture of an elephant. They could do it,
right.
but they would have to be able to communicate. That's what actual relationships are. If you're not relating, it's not a relationship. Okay. There has to be some kind of shared will to do something together and to harmonize. And the reason why this is so important is I don't know of any family. I don't know of any family that has not been touched by estrangement, grudges, misunderstandings, deep-seated resentments. It really, really hurts. And the more time, this is the significant thing that I really want to say about this is that we can almost normalize estrangement by not doing these apologies, these communications, having these encounters, willing these
Yeah.
encounters, and opening that path for open lines of communication. Because if we let too much time elapse, now this becomes our life where we're no longer talking, where we're no
Yes.
longer, and then guess what metastasizes? The false narratives. The more time we spend without communicating with the other, we're just communicating. We're on the hamster wheel of our own assumptions. We're making up all kinds of junk that had nothing to do with the person because we have our own narrative. You know how you stop the hamster wheel? You have to engage
Yeah.
and hear
Well,
what is
and the
your
other
side
thing
of the
is,
story.
the flip side of that is there will be people who are toxic and just want to be miserable, or they bring addiction or whatever to the table or narcissism or abuse or cheating or whatever the negativity is.
Mhm,
You do not have to live with that. You
mhm,
do not have to have it in your life just because it's a blood relative. You can support somebody and not have them daily in your life,
mhm,
right? Like, I think sometimes it's ingrained in us. I think we're doing better now with the younger generations at saying protect yourself, self-care, do
mhm.
what's right for you. It was like Natasha was saying, she had to she got a letter. That was her apology when she was molested. Was
Yeah.
they Her dad made him write her a letter and apologize. Like, no, you do not ever have to see him again. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, no, absolutely
No,
not.
if somebody and that's a really firm line. I think it's good to make that clear line, even in court when a minor child who has been abused has to testify against the defendant who's the abuser. They now do that from a secure, hidden location over, video because we do not want to put particularly a minor child
Yeah.
anywhere near somebody who has abused them in the past. That's very significant to talk
But
about.
our generation, it was all shh.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, we're gonna go to the family reunion, so everybody just, let's just avoid and be quiet. We don't want to upset grandma or whatever, and it's like you get older and you realize when you have your own kids, I'm thinking, why the hell weren't we protected better, right? Like,
It's no,
but
it's awful. It's
but
awful
it's
because the kid would get
generational.
yelled at. The kid would get I have friends who were molested by a blood relative, like an uncle or something, and it tore up the family because they would want the kid to be quiet or be angry at the child, like that the child did something wrong.
Yeah.
Which is shock. I don't know how any parent hears that news, that information, and gets that out of it. I have no idea, but some
Um,
families do that, and sometimes you'll have, like, the mother, uh, protecting the uncle or protecting the father, and
Or if
really
it's the dad, they'll blame the child
they
for
blame the or they get jealous.
causing it to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like competition and I've heard of these things and people have talked about it and it's just uh it's really awful, but that's why again I go back to communication, right? Because we're having these dialogues, we're having these conversations one-on-one and in groups, in public and in private, and the more we do, we're opening more and more windows to allowing fresh
Yeah.
air to come in so people don't think they are
Change.
alone.
And it's like we were saying last night, we can't be upset, like completely upset and angry with our parents because our parents learned and grew and did 100 times better than their parents or
Yeah,
their
every
parents.
generation is
It just
learning.
takes time. You can't expect them to unlearn something that was their entire life, that they
Yeah.
was ingrained in them for decades, and now we're all learning to change and grow and new things and do different things. And it's like, well, you know, it's just not going to happen overnight. It takes time, and we have to be patient. I'm not talking about if somebody's molesting you. You do not listen. I tell Linda Rose, if she tells me that somebody makes her even uncomfortable, she absolutely never has to be around that person
Yeah.
unless she's
No
ready to.
questions asked.
No
No
questions
questions
asked. I
asked.
don't want to know why they make you. I mean, if you want to tell me I'm here, but we're not debating it because I've had people in my life that made me uncomfortable, and
Mhm.
your intuition is usually right. So I don't care who it is. If you're uncomfortable until you're ready, or you may never be,
Mhm.
you do not have to be around them.
Yeah.
Period. There's no discussion. Like, that's the end of the sentence. So,
Mhm. We have to support our children and we have to listen to survivors and we have to believe people who tell their stories. I think that's really, and that goes back to listening, to being having an open spirit, to not being defensive, even if we feel like even if someone feels like we played a role, like Sandy just said, I'm sure I've hurt people before, even though I didn't intend, but I'm sure I do. Yeah,
yeah,
we all have
we're all
hurt people
human.
before. Yeah, we absolutely have all done that, but are we willing to meet that person there and help them clean that wound and at least understand, at least listen to what they're going through, even if we did not intend it, just sort of be that space. It's just about being loving and caring and supporting people. And but more what I was talking about was just, how in a family or with a friendship at some point there'll be someone who stirs up division, or there'll be something that, some financial dispute or something that happens that tears apart the entire family for generations, the Hatfields and McCoys
Yeah,
type thing. And it's just so depressing because these are people who all do love one another, but something has just come and created that rift. And it is important in that scenario, it is important to try to break down those barriers and at least communicate so that you can tell what's going on. A lot of people just don't talk and they have no idea why. I've known people who had a best friend or a cousin or something, and they'll say, "I don't know what happened, but we got really mad 2 decades ago, and we just don't talk." Like I've heard
over a
people say that,
phone
like,
bill or something, right? Like, yeah, it's
yeah,
something ridiculous. They don't even remember what they fought over.
they don't even remember, and it's like life is so short, and it's so hard to find people that
Yeah,
love you and that you love. So I guess what I'm saying is go invest in those relationships that are meaningful to you, not someone just because they're related to you. I think that would be awful. If
yeah.
you're blood related to someone and they are awful to you, they do not appreciate you, they're using you. No, that is not someone you're supposed to be
It's like
investing in.
I see my mom's family was a mess, and there was a lot of really just bad stuff. But anyways,
Mhm.
at a certain point, I never went near my grandfather because he was a very ugly person,
Mm.
alcoholic, and but up until he died, my mom and her sisters, her brother, her sister, they were abused severely, and they still
Oh.
were like, "Ah, I gotta go take care of dad." And I'm like, "You
Mm.
don't want to though. Like, why?
Yeah.
Like, some kind of weird obligation. Like, you do
Yeah.
not have to expose yourself to that. Like, you
Yeah.
don't. You just don't. People, you do not have to
Mm.
expose yourself to that.
Yeah.
It's different if, say, somebody was an addict and they cleaned up and they got help and they were doing
Mhm.
better and they proved themselves to you and they've been good to you and you want to be there for them and help them through it. Brilliant.
I've seen, the thing is,
Brilliant.
for people who don't know she is very receptive to apologies. She is
Yeah.
very open-hearted and very, you're an interesting person because you tend to get it right on both sides. You tend to be very clear about who you are and what you need and what you want. And you're very, but to me, that's natural. I think people think that you're supposed to either be really harsh and mean and not compassionate, and that makes you powerful. And I always say, no, it's kindness that is the powerful response, and compassion. And
Yeah.
that's something where you're protecting your peace and you're doing something with kindness. We can always be kind as we're enforcing that. So because I've seen you, you're a very good diplomat. You're somebody who people do call on when there's disputes, right? I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of people seek your advice for a reason, and I've
I
seen that.
just we don't go into a conversation ever, into any conversation, with the goal that we're right and we're going to change your mind, first of all.
Mhm.
Because what's the point? I
Yeah.
might as well just come to you and go, I'm right. Are you okay with that? Okay, well, then why talk? Like,
There's
why,
no point. There's no point in
why have a
talking.
conversation, right? Like,
Mhm.
so you have to be open. And not only do you have to be open, but you're going to be willing to do the work. It
Mhm.
might not be something you can fix overnight. It may be something you got to talk about for 7 nights in a row or once a week for 6 months. Like, it might not happen overnight. It might not be an easy
Yeah.
fix. It might be something that time's got to heal, and you might need to give somebody some space.
Yeah.
But I also don't chase people. Like, if I
Mhm.
say to you, Renee, if you need anything, let me know. I am not going to call you and bug you and text you and message you, let me fix it, let me fix it, let me
Yeah.
fix it, let me help
Mhm.
you. I want, because
That's not helpful. That's not helpful.
it is not helpful. Pump the brakes. It does not help anything. Your anxiety is now being projected onto us, and then you feel anxious, and
Mhm.
then nothing's getting accomplished for anybody.
Yep.
Like, absolutely zero. And the other thing is, I think anybody that knows me knows I have very strong boundaries. And so a lot of the foolish stuff and drama, those people don't bring it to me
Mhm.
because they know I'm not going to play that game. So
Mhm.
I'm no fun, right? I'm no
Yeah.
fun. I'm not going to
Yeah.
keep telling.
You're not
I'm
fun.
not going to gossip. I'm not going to.
That's my
I,
thing too, is that the gossip, that's why I'm like always the last person to hear anything, right? Because people have found out I'm kind of like a wet blanket. I'm just boring. They bring me drama and then I just immediately start talking about something else. I was not always like that. The reason why I noticed that is I worked when I was like in middle school and stuff. I remember not being like that, and I thought that was a weakness. So I intentionally tried to change that. The gossip stuff and all that, if I want to be, to me, it's all very boring because it lacks truth. If somebody's angry at me, for example, if someone comes to me and say, "Oh, people have done this to me before. Oh, Renee, so and so is mad at you or whatever." I'm like, okay, well, they're gonna stop right there. They need to come and tell me themselves. I love when people
or when
come
they
to
come
me.
to you and say, Renee, I'm really upset with Melissa. Da 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 da. And it's like, well, you need to go to Melissa.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't, how am I gonna, like, I've literally had that conversation, not about you, but I'm saying, like, I'll say, what do you want me to do? There's nothing I can do, and I can't even verify anything that you're saying. Have you ever played telephone as a kid when you all sit in a
Right?
circle?
Yep.
There's no way to accurately disseminate information over this crazy train
Grapevine.
of murmurs and whispers. It's like worse than the telegraph. It's just it's awful.
Yeah.
You
Because,
just cannot do it. So you need information. I always tell people you need information before you can react. I mean, you can react, but what are you reacting to? You're just reacting to your own limited reality, but you're not reacting to,
yeah.
I want to react to reality. If I'm going to get pissed at someone, I want to verify that they have actually done willingly and willfully the thing is, and then I'll get mad. And if I've done something to someone that they're upset with, it's a very healing thing for me. It's not for everyone, but for me, I like when someone comes and says, "Oh, I'm so mad at you," or whatever. I'm like, "All right, let's talk about it." All right. But if you put up that immediate wall, if someone comes to you and they say, "Oh, you really pissed me off the other day," or whatever, and they have a good heart and they're someone that you
Yeah.
love, if you immediately just, put up this moat of, or have this sort of attitude, that's not getting anything done, and you can't evolve as a human being. I want to believe
No.
that I do have a lot of flaws that I can keep working on and refining. That's part of life.
You have to be constantly changing and being open. And if you build up walls, then what's the, like you're never going to have true real relationships. And I also
Mhm.
tell people there's a difference. Like if you come to me and you're upset with somebody in the
Mhm.
moment and you just need to let that steam off and vent, that's
Yeah.
okay. I'm here, I'll listen, because guess what? It's not going anywhere and I'm not feeding into it. But I will
Mhm.
listen to you for 3 days in a row
Yeah.
just because you need to
Mhm.
get it out, right? I mean, that's what friends do.
Yeah.
The difference is you're bringing it to me because you know it's going to end with me and you just need to let it out, and you're
Yeah.
trusting me to keep that for you.
Mhm.
Somebody who wants the drama is going to be like, I don't want drama. I don't want drama. While they're writing to you, I don't want drama. They're talking about drama. Like, oh, I'm going to put it on Facebook. I don't like drama. So stop messaging me or talking to me or calling me or texting me. It's like,
Well, see, here's the thing.
that's drama. Like,
Every relationship is different. You talked about having boundaries. Here's the thing about me too. Let me say this. If you're one of my if you're one of my people, like somebody I've known and I've invested in and I love dearly, there are people who need to just sit and vent, and they might even say
and I'm
cruel
okay.
things to
We
me in
all
the
do
moment,
that.
but I don't judge that. I know that person. So
Right.
I'm very, very open and soft with those few people. But here's the flip side with me. This is the Gemini sort of schizophrenia. Is that not really, but what it is if I don't know you, I've said that to people before. Someone goes off on me, and I will literally say, I do not know you, and you do not know me well enough for me to allow that. Click, like I'm fucking done. Like I really don't give a shit. Like if you're someone that I have a long-standing relationship with, I don't fucking care. I know who you are. You want to sit there and you want to go through all the emotions. I am going to be right there with you,
Right.
buddy. I am right there. I am going to hold you down because you deserve it, because I deserve it. I deserve it. I've invested in you and I love you and I trust you and I want to be with you. I am
Right.
going to fucking hold it down because I'm that type of woman and I'm powerful. If you're not worth my fucking time and I don't know you and I haven't invested shit,
And don't
I
forget,
don't I don't need to do, I don't need it. I will spend that time with someone who needs it. And you and I talk about that all the time in a professional way as well. It's like there are people
who
who
take,
really want to
yeah.
do the work, who really want to, produce and be productive and really grow. And we want to be there to help somebody grow and to lift someone up. But because time is a limited resource. So you want to invest. That's what I'm saying. You have to make choices. Who and what is worthy of my investment? And sometimes you go all in. It's like playing the stock market. Sometimes you put more on this and you
Yeah.
put less on this, or you don't invest at all. That's the type of person I am. I'm a ride or die bitch, I think, as they say on the streets. I'm a ride or die bitch, but not with everyone. You have to know me, and I have to really want to be there, and then I will fucking be there. But don't comment,
But
we
if I come to you or you come to me, what is the first thing we say? Or if I go to Alana, or Alana comes to me, I go to Sandy. The first thing we say is, "Can I just vent for 5 minutes?"
yeah, see, tell them about your thing. I was telling my mother this, who's a psychologist. Em has a thing where she opens the door, because I did this the other day. I had when my Mac went out and it was all kinds of shit was going on that day. I remembered what Em said, and I've never done this before. And I was like, I'm gonna yell, and I just did, because that's what. So tell them about you, what you do. I love this.
So I live in the woods off grid, and I have a mile radius around my house before there's any houses whatsoever. And even then,
Mhm.
it's only a couple. So if one of my friends is like really having a shit day and they can't just let it out or whatever, they'll call me and I open my front door and I literally yell the word fuck as loud as I can on the phone. I think Alana actually has it recorded so she can play it whenever she
Yeah.
wants.
I was telling, like I said, I told my mother, the psychologist, and she was like, that is so healthy. Like, that is so beautiful. It's chemically helpful, right? You just feel, you just feel empowered and good. Sometimes you just have to get that stress
Sometimes
out.
you
That's
just
what,
need to just let it go. Like it's okay. It's okay to
here's the
feel what you
truth.
need to feel.
Emotions, we have to embrace emotions, and that's the thing, like, if,
We fight them, we fight them, and we fight them, but we're only fighting ourselves.
we fight them and then we judge them and then we don't wanna open up. That's why I'm saying, like, if you're one of my people or whatever, you're someone that I love and I invest in, if you're upset with me, come. If you're upset about nothing, maybe you're just hormonal, maybe you're just come and let me hold you down.
Sometimes you
I
don't
will
even know.
let me hold you. Let me
You know,
hold you.
sometimes you just don't even know what's wrong. You're
Yeah.
just
Sometimes you're
not.
just not feeling well, or you're just not well, or you're tired, or you're grumpy. Allow yourself to do that, but do it with someone who really knows you. And that's what pisses me off. My fucking thing is I hate when it's someone who takes um not leeway, what's the word? It takes license and does that with like strangers, or you do not look. That's why I've said to people, I do not know you well enough for you to freak out around me in that way. I'm not going to take it. I don't fucking care. You have to do that with someone that you know can take it and you have that relationship built up. People who go off and try to every problem they have is suddenly the world's, responsibility. No, homie, don't
Oh
play
yeah,
that.
big on self-responsibility, which goes back to apologizing and meaning it, right? Have integrity,
Exactly.
believe in yourself, be the person you want to be. Um,
Right. We have our guest has arrived.
oh
Susie has
great,
arrived.
great.
I want to play the package as an intro. Produced this. This is going to give you a little bit. Hi, Susie. We do see you in the background. We're going to play a
Dawn, I
little.
see you.
Yes, we're going
Stars
to.
and moons.
Yes, we're going to play this package, just the intro, and then we will bring up Susie, and we're going to get into it. So here we go.
Write poetry, sing.
You okay?
Sing songs. I like to sing. Play
Sing?
monitor. She sings too. Want me to sing a song?
Yeah, I'll sing. Sing me a song.
All right.
Okay.
All these times I look in the mirror.
I love you, Aurora.
All these lines on my face getting clearer. The past is gone in my mind like dust and dawn. Isn't that the way? Everybody, I'm good.
The hair on his face, dirty dreadlocked in for the man. He asked a man for what he could spare with shame in his eyes.
Now, Santa Maria police are continuing their investigation into a hit and run last night that left a man dead. KSBY News reporter Jacob Dizon joins us live with what we have learned today. Jacob?
At around 8:30 last night, Santa Maria police officials responded to reports of a man who was struck and killed by a passing car near the intersection here off Betaravia and Oakley. Police have since identified the victim but not yet released his name. And earlier today, KSBY photojournalist Jason Orr obtained surveillance video of the incident from a nearby local business. In the video, you can see the strip of Betaravia Road where the collision took place. And though we opted not to show you footage of the crash itself, first responders can be seen arriving to the scene 15 minutes after the man was hit. He died at the scene. Just moments ago, I also spoke with Santa Maria police officials who say so far no arrests have been made. Police say the suspect vehicle they are looking for is a dark-colored sedan, yet no other details have been provided. They encourage you to reach out to the department if you have any information on the matter. Live in Santa Maria, Jacob Dees.
God forbid you ever had to walk a mile in his shoes.
Hello, Suzie
Hi,
Matticola.
guys.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me. Is my lighting okay?
Yes, you look
You're fine.
gorgeous. Beautiful.
you.
What was it like for you to watch that video that we just all saw?
It's hard. It's hard because watching it back to back, watching how much life he still had in him. And he was 55 in that video and then 56 when he was hit by that car. So I felt so panicked to get to know this man and have him in my life because of where I am right now in life. And just weeks went by and I missed that window. So I'm like, have a lot of regrets. I have a lot of regrets.
Yeah, it's a lot to process. I just want to give a little background so they know. So Walter in the video is Susie's father, and he had some addiction problems and had gone to prison and was couldn't struggled after that. It was like a revolving door because he was homeless and there's no help, right? Like that's the big thing. And then this
Absolutely.
just happened on what, April 16th, correct?
The
That he
17th, yes.
the
April
17th that
17th.
he was killed.
Mhm.
So it's very fresh and raw for Susie, but
Right after my 39th birthday.
yeah.
And because my birthday was April 9th, and I'm like, gosh, I'm about to be 40, you know? And it just got me thinking of people that I pushed away. Because if it hurts too much, that's, what we do with trauma, right? I'd rather not feel this, and you just go on with your life. And I'm trying to stop that altogether. It's a really vicious cycle for me.
And
And it can be lonely.
he didn't raise you, right? Like I think you said you don't even remember when he
I don't. My auntie sent me a picture the other day of he and I when I was maybe 1. And it's a gym. I've never seen it. That's all I have. I
but he
did
did
not.
like birthday cards and stuff like that, right?
Yes, he would write me from
Occasional.
prison. He would send me cards on my birthday. He would call me. We never got to FaceTime because where he was, he always had like a flip phone. He always tried so hard when he got out of prison to, take advantage of his resources and go to the library or the colleges and try to do something with his life. He had a lot of talent. That's why I said it
Yeah,
was a lot of.
he wrote a children's book.
He did. He did. He was he was a poet. He was wonderful. Wonderful. And in that video clip, they actually, talked to him and he says, I'm a poet. I'm a writer. He was so talented.
Singer. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. He has a pretty good voice too.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Thank you.
How are you processing and working through all of this? How are you moving towards healing, and what sources of strength are you relying upon?
Dissociation, honestly, and just staying busy. I have to have constant noise. Like I have to have music going. It drives my husband a little crazy, but for the most part, I paint, and I have to watch that too because I'll get self-isolating and it's like, am I really healing or am I hiding? And that's where I'm at right now.
You made a statement in our chat that you asked yourself, I can't remember the wording, but am I living or am I surviving?
Surviving. I asked
And
myself,
that was like,
right? You're like, dang. I asked myself that one day, have I been, when I pass away, because I'm very, I'm not beautiful about death. It's such a real part of my life that I'm just like, they forget you. People forget you. You're worm food. Honestly, that is how I feel about death. I feel like the soul passes on. Definitely. I have felt him. I have felt him visit 100%. I don't care what anybody says. And I just cried. I just cried. I got chills, It was kind of like, okay, affirmation, like, and he called me Sparrow. He never called me by my name. So I've noticed like cardinals all of a sudden, or a mockingbird that landed on a visitor sign in front of my husband's truck. I went to my kid's school and this mockingbird landed. I thought it was a sparrow because it has a long tail. It landed on this visitor sign of all things for it to say. And I just lost it. The bird let me get close to it. So it was bittersweet. I felt close to him for a second. And no, I never met him in person as an adult or a teenager, any of that. I always was given promises that he was going to come and see me. And here I am, 39. So his father passed away earlier in the year. And I don't even think he got to know that, which would be a good thing because everyone says when his mother, my grandmother, who I never got to meet, she died of cancer. The only person I'm in touch with from that side of the family is my auntie. And I just met my brother. It gets deeper than that. He has kids out there where 23andMe said, you have a sister. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I look her up on Facebook,
It's happened to my mom's family too.
It's crazy. And every time it tells me I have new relatives, I'm hesitant to check it because I'm like, more, you know. So I have a brother I just met weeks ago that we have him in common, our father, and we're 5 months apart.
Wow.
I
5
should have
months.
sent you a picture. We're 5 months apart.
That's okay, because we're probably gonna have you come back, and
That
we'll
would
go
be
back,
great.
dig back on your story a little bit.
That would be
But
great.
let's get back on your dad. So, can you tell us a little bit, like, about when he went to prison and then coming out, and how they didn't help and he ended up back in, and constantly getting arrested? I saw his name, but that's so common because I deal with veterans, and it's the same thing. Because what do they arrest him for? Basically being homeless.
Yes.
Going to the bathroom in public, or like not even public, but
And
where are
he
they
was
going to go? The stores won't let them in. Like, they got to
it's
go. You
really
got to go.
sad. We're going through such a sensitive time right now. You know, I won't get on to the fact that us women don't have control over our bodies anymore, but it's a time where,
Yeah.
you know, there's
Turmoil.
resources. People have to know their resources, and people can't depend on people. And just that human decency. People are built different nowadays. You see a homeless person, you look the other way. Because why? Because you saw one time in front of you buying beer with the money you gave them. It's sad. They're
Yeah.
people too. It makes me so sad. I used to go make sandwiches. You know, over the years I used to go in Colorado. I would go by the overpass, and there was a bunch of people there. I would make sandwiches for them, and I did it not only for them but for me, because I need to feel like the way I am with people. You can't depend on anyone, and everyone, you know, backstabs and all that. My circle is small, but those are the kind of people I relate to, because they know what it's like to, you know, go without and to struggle their entire lives. And
Yeah.
the system is flawed. We need to rehabilitate. What are they doing in there? They're learning how to survive behind bars because they have nothing to lose, nowhere to go. And then they get out, all they have is their papers and their property. From here you go, they open the gate, let them go. Where are they going to go? We need more programs for, you know, when there's halfway houses, they have those. But I mean, just look at Skid Row. What does that tell you? It's still a very big issue.
Yeah, there tends to
And
be
I
a
guess,
perception too that people will blame somebody for being homeless, blame somebody, and instead of asking why is this person in this predicament and how could I possibly assist them? A lot
Yes.
of people don't have choices, or they had totally different pasts. It's like there's so much judgment and there's so
Privilege.
little comprehension and so little compassion. I mean, homeless people are in danger now every day of being assaulted by
Yes.
people, spit on, their
Yeah.
money is stolen, police
Robbed,
harass.
set on fire. Horrible things happen to homeless people. It's very sad. And you all know what? I had to be responsible solely for all the, you know, the investigators calling me. I had a mortuary on my caller ID. All this was back to back, and I was left in charge to decide what happens to him now. And I don't know if y'all know, but Santa Maria does this wonderful thing. I guess a lot of states do. It's the only good thing I've heard from this is they take their ashes and they scatter them at sea, and they give you the exact coordinates of where they did it. And since I can't be there, that gives me some peace. I think that's beautiful, because
That is
ironically,
beautiful.
Santa Maria was always home to him, and that is where he went home.
Mhm.
So it's bittersweet. I
Yeah.
didn't want to bring his ashes to Texas because I felt like he wouldn't finally be free. You know, this loner,
Yeah,
he was kind of a badass. My
Yeah,
dad was kind of a badass, you know.
I don't know where you get it from. No.
I mean,
You
and he
know,
had the biggest heart.
yeah, it sounds like just listening to him when he was talking about singing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, so here's this man who you haven't seen, and then somebody calls you and says there's a video with an
Yeah.
interview of him, right? Can you tell us from there how that happened, and then you got the phone call that he was gone a few weeks later, right?
Yes. So January was freezing in Paso Robles, California. And that's when they decided shortly after that to open a shelter for the homeless. So they had a place, it's a warming center, is what they call it. I was in the process. I have so much stuff I'm dealing with, but I did feel a little panicked that I needed to get in touch with this news station. That's all I could think of when I saw this clip. And
that
you
was
know,
the clip where he was just singing, correct?
Yes. Yep. They asked him about who he was, what his name was. He says, I'm a poet, I'm a writer, and that he likes to sing. And I don't know a whole lot about him. So I got to hear that from his mouth. And that right there was special to me. And it looked like he may have been intoxicated. He did have a little problem with whiskey. But I mean, honestly, I tell my children, I'm like, this is where you could end up. This is how people cope. They don't have somebody to talk to. And I said, and if I was on the streets, I probably would. I'm way too resourceful. I promise you I wouldn't be there long. But a lot of people don't have that help. So these news people were so kind to him, and I wanted to write with my own words, hey, we have not met this man. Can you help, get in touch with him? Because I had heard he was like a community, everyone knew Walt, but he went by River because one time he told me, I go by River because I've been everywhere. And I love that saying, not all that wander are lost.
Yeah.
As long as they have their own mind. There are homeless people that are okay with being homeless.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are some people who I knew musicians like that who chose that lifestyle.
Yes, because they're like, F the government, I'm not getting on paper. And you know what?
We have some major issues here right now because we built more shelters and they're not even getting filled because they do drug testing and the people don't want to give up. They're like, they don't feel like they should have to give it up. And it's like, and it's federal. That means everything. That means marijuana, like everything. So
even in the states where marijuana is legal, I wonder, in the states where it's legal, do they allow it or no tolerance?
No, because
it could be a gateway,
Well, not
same
only
with
that,
drinking.
but it's they're federal programs, and so because it's not legally legal federally,
the guidelines are stricter.
Yeah,
it takes precedent, over the state.
But I tell somebody you shouldn't be taking. If you were to you could literally get in trouble for taking your marijuana across state lines if it's a state because you just crossed state lines.
Absolutely, and they take that very seriously.
I mean, I've never heard of anybody but it is a fact that it could happen if somebody wanted to be a total dick to you.
Yeah, technically they can use it as a pretense.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The rehabilitation, there is none. There's none. We need to keep them off drugs.
Right? Like reintegrate them back into society.
Yes, reintegration. That's the word. Thank you. Because in jail, like you'd be surprised how many things they do get in there. So a lot of them are not getting out of jail clean and sober.
Right.
They make hooch, they've got all kinds of drugs going in the system. Like there's a lot of crooked guards, there's visitors, there's all kinds of ways to get it in there. It's really bad. So why don't we work on it there? Start there. That way when they get out, they're honestly like, hey, I'm 9 months in, I'm whatever in. And then have check-ins where you're I know that they have to do like home visits and stuff at first when they get out. But there's the thing, if they don't have a home, they end up giving an address of somebody. Why is that allowed? Right. Not having a home is the issue. So it's like it stops there and then we just give up on them and here they are back in jail.
Yeah, and they're going into prison usually having suffered a lot of trauma, sometimes mental illness, sometimes other medical issues, and they're coming out worse because they've been abused or they've been isolated or had so many negative experiences. The stress and tension itself in those places is just something that sets them up for failure upon failure.
Yes. Right. I'm going to be completely honest with you. A few months back, I had to deal with an old warrant. And it was horrible how it happened because, what is it called where you're supposed to have safety and protection in the hospital? They're not supposed to violate it. It totally slipped my mind. Anyways, I'll come back to that. Like nurses and stuff, say there's a celebrity that goes to a hospital, they're not supposed to report that somebody's there. Anyways, I can't think of the word, but I got arrested in jail, or I got arrested in the hospital to take care of this warrant. Because, I mean, I have anxiety, I have mental health issues, and they did the worst thing to me is stick me in a room and not let me out. They wouldn't even let my husband come in to comfort me. I hate the hospitals in San Antonio. There is no bedside manner. The nurse blew out 4 of my veins, 3 of them, she was going for the 4th, and I was just like, do you know how much that hurts? No. So they treated me like crap, and when they see on my records that I'm a recovering addict, well, they don't see recovering addict. They see dirty tests, come up when I had gone to the hospital before. And it just affects how they treat you completely. You know what I'm saying?
I
So
get it.
after that, after she blows my third vein and I take it off me, she's like, "Don't you want the medicine?" So what do? I torture myself and go without. I
Yeah.
go to jail and I got to see firsthand some mentally ill people who are in there running back and forth, hitting their forehead
Yeah.
into the door. They need their medicine, and this girl is screaming that she has not been given her medication. She talks to herself, and that right there, I was just like, this is how people are treated in here. I was
Yeah, it's
I was
it's
disgusted.
not a good we don't have a good system. Like we talk a lot about wanting to end the homelessness, but it's such a complex issue. And I don't know if you guys saw that, but I think it's 10 times. So if somebody goes to prison and comes out, they are 10 times more likely to be homeless.
Yes.
10 times. Like, hello, it
Yeah.
speaks volumes and we're doing nothing.
And what's sad is how long it's been 10 times likely. The percentage hasn't even gone down to 5 times.
Yeah.
Like, what do we
Yeah.
need to do? Everyone needs to,
So
get together
you're
and figure
home,
something out.
you get the video, you're going to try to reach out to the radio station, and then your dad's birthday comes, right?
Time passes, and sorry about that.
That's all right.
Time passes, and it passes quickly. And before I knew it, I was getting a phone call from my auntie on my house phone, and I don't really hear from anybody too often. The phone doesn't ring, no one knocks on the door.
Yeah.
So when they do, and that's exactly what it was. I never got to finish writing that email. And instead, I was having to call all of my siblings and let them know that he was gone.
And then it got put onto you to do all the arrangements for somebody you really didn't know.
Yeah, that was hard. I felt like I owed it to
Yeah.
him. That's my family. And especially because he was left, this is where I was getting onto humanity, is I could forgive the person who hid him if they did the right thing. They must be afraid, or maybe they were so drunk they didn't know.
Yeah.
And, maybe thought they hit an animal, which is still shitty to not stop and check. But
Yeah,
that's
they
them,
definitely
not
knew they
me.
hit something because it said that's how they figured out the car. They left the whole driver's side mirror was
And they
there.
also said they spared us the whole video. The whole video shows my poor father being thrown
Yeah.
pretty far. And that's what the investigator told me, is that which it gave me a little bit of comfort that when my dad flew through the air, by the time he hit the ground, he was already gone. But to lay there for 15 minutes, what if he wasn't? Before anyone saw him and called? That's terrible. You
Yeah.
not only kept
15
driving,
minutes
but you
is a long
couldn't call
time.
911 anonymously. 15 minutes is dire. If
Yes.
someone was on scene quicker, who knows? Maybe he would have been changed forever, but still here.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
And
just those weeks, and
what do they
it
know
changed
right
my life
now, just so
forever.
we can put the word out there? What do
I
they
believe
know?
it was a black Scion the year that you posted. It's a dark vehicle.
Yeah,
So
they
it
said
looks,
like a charcoal color, so I would say yeah, like
yes,
black or dark gray.
yes,
Yeah.
it's a dark color, and there is a left side mirror missing and significant damage to the front end, because they were going pretty fast.
Yeah. That's what they said. And they have no leads whatsoever.
Just on that. They said we do have a person of interest. So they probably looked up the license plate. Hopefully the license plate, they were able to see what person it was, because they didn't say we have a vehicle in mind. They just said we have a person of interest. I'm going to call here soon, probably tomorrow, and see if there's any updates at all, because they were doing really good at keeping in touch with me. And it was crazy. The investigator asked me something that it hurt so bad. And then we got disconnected, and I was like, did that just happen? But he said, when's the last time you hugged your father? And I was like, wow. I don't think I ever have.
Yeah.
That hurts. That's my identity, And then it's like my stepdad unalived himself when I was 16, raised me from 3. So, gosh, all my family's dropping like flies. I better get moving on all the stuff I got to do. It's heartbreaking.
You're amazing. I know you don't feel it. I know you don't feel it.
I feel like a basket case right now, honestly.
But you are doing it. Like some people would have just shut down. They wouldn't have been able to do all the stuff that you've done for your dad after the fact. they wouldn't even have wanted to reach out to him. Do you know what I mean?
Thank
Like,
you.
you are doing it. You're doing things to make your life more peaceful and getting that closure. And so it has to suck that you're not getting the closure on the hit and run because the guy left, right? Like,
You
you
know,
must be like,
I've never gotten closure from any death. They've
right.
all been murder, suicide, drug overdose. Everyone I've lost, because it started with friends, you know, friends, and then family, and then friends throughout the years. There's a town I lived in an hour away from here that I'm telling you, I got so close to everyone at my job at Chili's, and so many of them over the years have died. And it's like, I just got chills. I've never lived in a place more like, oh my God, the morbidity rate in my life. And my husband has never lost anybody. So it's like, I can't relate to somebody like that who doesn't know what it's like to, you know, my dog was gone today. You guys know that.
I know. So
Look at
happy
her.
that you found her. Welcome home, bud.
But that's what I just started crying last night because my cat was throwing up blood. And I said, everything I love, I lose. Everything I love fucking dies. And she ends up missing today. And I honestly felt like I was going to lose it. I was like,
But you did it. You found
I
her.
was
You
talking
did
to
it.
myself around the house going, I can't do this. I can't feel this today, you know? And then I
You
had
don't have to
anxiety
be,
about doing this.
there's
I was
nothing
like,
that says we have to be like oblivious, right? It's not
yeah.
like we have to go through the motions and be like, oh, happy day. Let's go make some coffee.
Well, I have been
Put
known,
my
sorry.
curls, my pretty dress, you know. But you're doing it. It's okay to be a basket case. It's okay to be a hot mess. But as long as you're
I want to crawl
doing it,
under a rock, but the only way I know how to do it is to help others. I
okay.
could, you know what I mean? I learned real young, my mom would get frantic when she saw blood. I had little brothers, and I'm like, you're scaring him. She's like, you need to be a 911 operator, you know, because I can be calm. But when it's me, I'm a mess, and I'm a lot to be around. The anxiety, the manic, all of it. But as long as I'm pouring my hurt and my waves of grief I'm going through into something positive, that's how I'm getting through. And I have come off to people who don't know me like I don't care. I'm bad at giving empathy, even though I feel it. It has to be on my own timing. You know, I'm just
I
bad at
have a whole
showing it.
theory on that I learned the other day. I'll send it to you on
Okay.
empathy.
Yeah.
It kind of changed my whole mindset
I'm like,
about
you'll
it.
be okay. Like, you know.
Because I know you had childhood trauma. We are going to get into that, guys. We are going to try
Yeah.
to bring Suzie back to talk
That's
more
definitely
about
another
some
day.
stuff. But we wanted to stick to her dad today. So, what is it you would like to see happen? Like, if they could have done one thing that you think would have changed the outcome for your dad, what would it have been?
Oh gosh. I only know how to start with the warming center. Put a program in with that. If I don't know details, if they do, and I'm not taking credit or taking away from just the size of how monumental what they did was. But I think if
Yeah.
we have a warming center, let's offer a lot of volunteer hours and visitors where it's you know, obviously soup kitchen. And over here we have psychiatrists, psychologists. We have a program for you to work to get through your trauma because they have trauma. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
absolutely. Absolutely.
And I just like, we need more programs out there and people to volunteer their time and reach out and say, what do you need to get off the streets? Do you want to get off the streets? How can I help with that? It's usually a business suit, a nice interview, whatever attire. They get the job, and then what? Or they
I
don't
was
get
just
the
going to say
job.
they have no car to get there. They have no
Yeah.
home to go to at the end of the
Let's
night to
get
shower and
bus
shave and make
passes.
themselves look good. Yeah.
Let's get bus
It's
passes to them. Like, give
not,
them all their
it's not a process.
resources. That's what I'd like to see, is more programs out there with volunteers.
Yeah, we
People,
definitely
they're people.
need to do something with the prison system for sure.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people are like, oh, they committed a crime, just throw away the key. They don't deserve anything. But what they forget is these people are coming back out into society to live with you. So why not give them the tools to
Yes.
be
When
able
all
to
they
do
know
that
is the
in a
prison
healthy way?
mentality. They're around other criminals in there. They're learning how to be sneaky in there and do what they do. That's what
And
they're going to
protect
do when they get
themselves,
out.
you
Yes.
know, to
And it's
protect
like,
themselves.
survival mode, you know? And I heard one time that if you go off and self-isolate when you're sad, it means you did a lot when you were a child. And that makes me sad. One, I could tell you for a fact I do that, but he was that way too. And it's like a lot of these people are, and then they get out and they don't know how to reach out. They only know how to internally get through something and look in the mirror and be like, you got this, you know. But when that falls apart, they reach to their old habits, old friends. And I don't know, I would like to see change, but all I could do is be hopeful.
Yeah, but you're getting the word out. And this is sort of a legacy for your dad, trying to fight and find who killed him, right?
Yes, I feel like, I mean, he gave me life. He gave me life, and I know he loved me the best way he knew how, and vice versa. It's hard for me to get a new person in my life, which he would have been new to me, and give them that piece of me where all my walls were down and I could lose them or they could abandon me. That's a big issue too, and I always fear that. But I'm like, he's already gone, and if I had him in my life, he may have disappointed me, and I wouldn't feel the way I do now, you know? So I do try to find a light in a really dark room, and I just go to that and stay there. And as soon as I feel myself getting weird and twisty and sad, I either decide to feel it for a minute, or I usually I'm like, I got to do something.
Yeah, like step aside, change your scenery.
Yeah, because I want to know that I lived and didn't just exist. That is why I'm doing this.
Yes, I loved that. I loved what you said. You asked yourself. That was like, yeah, that was an amazing thing how you worded it. I'm gonna have to look back so I can.
That was my aha moment, that I decided to not be sad every day over losing him. I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I felt like my aunt told me I was channeling his spirit and his creativity with the things I was doing outside. I was painting and stuff. And I was telling her, I'm going to start this book, and I'm going to do a book in sequel of Clever Kitty in the city. I'm going to have a homeless kitty. I want to do a children's book that is tied to his and in memory of him.
A lot of children do their parents take over their books and stuff when the parent passes.
Yeah. He
kind
had
of
so many poems too. I wish I could get my hands on them. But for the good to come out of his death, to find that light in that room, and to know that this wasn't in vain. One, we're getting it out there. Render aid, because transient lives matter. He was my father, and these people have families. But if I make sure when I pass away that I did more things, and didn't just exist and try to survive, barely head above water my entire life, hit with friggin' life constantly. If I can get that out of my life, then I feel like he would be proud. And I really, I wish I could just tell him. My biggest regret is I never told my father that, which I always called him Pops. I could not call him Dad. My biggest regret is not telling him I loved him just the way he was.
Yeah.
Because these people's self-esteem is very low. They have nothing to show for their years on this earth.
Yeah.
And
it takes us a long time to understand. You know, my dad had PTSD, and when I was growing up, I just thought he didn't want to be around us. You know, I was so snippety about it because I was a kid, I was a teenager.
It's hard.
Where's dad? You know.
Yeah.
So then I got older, and you realize why he could. I mean, he was protecting us as much as himself. You know.
Yes.
He didn't want to get ugly, or you know, it just wasn't him. He wasn't that person. So that was his way
of very real.
Keeping us from it. So in a lot of ways, your dad probably was showing you complete and love by not being in your life every single day. It would be a lot to have to know day to day. He's on the street today. He came to visit, but tomorrow he's going back on the street.
Yes, that's the thing.
That's a hard thing.
When my auntie called me and she told me the news, she said, your dad's gone. He's dead. She told me what happened, but she said, you never have to worry about him again, because we would always reach out and go, have you heard from him? And then she'd be like, hey, I checked records. He's in jail. You don't have to worry. And I'd feel relieved every time my dad went to jail, because he wasn't on the streets. He told me a story one time that he was having to run around with a pocket knife, and because his arm was in a cast, had one arm in a cast, and that was his protection because he was sleeping wherever. And
Right.
people mess with you. Someone tried to mess with him when he was in that cast.
And that's what, because
So
we gotta wrap it up here in a minute.
yeah,
But I wanted to. That was one of the things we wanted to talk about, was the fact that, or point out, because he was in prison and then he came out and he's homeless. Every single time he was involved in, when the police were called, he would be brought to jail. He would be arrested because he had that history. So it's
yes,
just this vicious circle where basically he's being arrested for being homeless
it's a
because,
will.
you know, it's a terrible, terrible place to be. Renee explained it like a hamster wheel, right? Like you're stuck in that
Exactly.
hamster wheel constantly. You
Exactly.
just can't
Like
stop
a roller coaster ride, you can't get off.
it. Yeah. But
Seriously.
anyhow, Renee, do you want to come back on? Do you have anything else? Because I know we've run late.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi. Yes. It's very inspiring. I'm so glad that you touched on so many things that I'm so passionate about. I did a lot of prison ministry for about 14 years. I ran an anti-death penalty organization, worked with prisoners and their families. I also did some jail ministry with women who were incarcerated.
Love that.
And
I
so
love
many.
that. Thank you for that, by the way. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. It was something
I
I'm
mean
very, very
that.
passionate about. Yeah, because and you know, jails and prisons really are where people with mental illness are often housed, you know, and then they're not
Yes.
getting any, you know, they're not getting the attention.
Not in a hospital like they need to be instead.
Right, right. And again, and somebody said in the audience, you know, addiction is not a crime. And that's one of the things that our mindset, European mindsets have changed. Some American mindsets are changed. We have to start going more in that direction.
Yeah.
Addiction is not a choice. It's a disease. It's something that somebody is struggling with. So they need love, care, and resources the same way someone with a physical ailment,
Yeah.
you know, needs. So we need to stop that stigma. And you're doing a great job of representing that and also humanizing people who are behind bars and people who are homeless and people with mental illness and addictions tend to be dehumanized. It's almost like people feel like they don't deserve the same human rights as other people. And that's just not true.
Yes. You turn the other cheek.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, I literally, when I was in Atlanta, there was a gentleman.
Oh. Did I
laying on the
disappear or am I
street.
still there? Okay.
Nope, you're
Sorry.
You're
here.
still here.
And we watched people in front of us step over the person.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
was
As if
like,
they're not human, right?
I get furious. There's y'all have seen me on TikTok.
legit.
I saw I was gonna stitch it and I was like, I put it in my drafts because I was like, I can't post this, I'll get a violation. But he was saying, like, I know what you want. He was singing a song and he says, whenever you see a homeless person, he's like, you know, turns away. And I was like, they're people.
Yeah.
And I was just saying, why not look at them and smile?
Right.
Or look at them and say, God bless you, or have a better day, have a good day, or you matter. Say something, you know, inspiring to these people. Don't just look away and treat them like they're not human.
See them. Just see them.
Yeah.
Right.
That's been
Just see
so
them, the
important.
actual
See them.
communicate with them, see them as human beings. And imagine if you were in that predicament. Imagine if someone you loved were in that predicament.
Yes. And that is a natural human need, is to be seen. I could tell you that right now. I'm not homeless and I have needed that my whole life and never gotten that.
Right.
not
So I
like these people
cannot
say-
imagine. I can't imagine actually how they
It's
feel.
not like they say, "Oh, I'm going to grow up and be a homeless person."
Exactly. Exactly.
Like, you know, and I tell people all the time that I don't care how much money you have, I don't care how much you've saved, I don't care how much property you have, you are one illness away
It could happen to
from
anybody.
losing everything.
Yes, absolutely.
There
And
are
nobody
homeless,
takes
there
it.
there are homeless people who were once millionaires. Absolutely. There's
Oh,
a
yes.
Look at all the stars it happens
And a
to,
lot of
like,
mental illness
women.
plays role with that.
Yes.
Whenever these people are homeless after being, you know, famous, being in the limelight.
yeah.
Or they just, a lot of them want to be because they don't want to be in the spotlight anymore and want, you know, you don't take it with you. And a lot of people really feel strongly about that. You can't take it with you.
That's very true. And we have a lawyer in the audience who said she wished she could have been on to help host this because she could have added a lot of insights and stuff. And
Anytime, baby, anytime.
We can always do a part 2.
I'm waiting for you.
So we did go way over, and you know, I think it was really worth it because we all, you know, it's just an edifying experience meeting you. You're such a great speaker, and you're so passionate, and your story is so interesting. There's so much that we haven't delved into that we definitely want to. So I'm very sure that we will be in touch.
Yeah.
For the people who are asking, you will see Suzie. Suzie, thank you for your courage, for your story, for your openness and your honesty. It's just been very helpful. And I do encourage you to go back and check out all of these comments so that you can see all of the
Yes,
love.
I did not. I was not seeing that the whole time. I'm so sorry.
Okay, we will link you to that so that you can go
Okay.
in and you can communicate with all of the people who had comments for you.
Okay, thank you. I actually can barely see y'all. I don't have my glasses on. There was a horrible glare.
Oh,
So like, they're not gonna be able
That's
to
what
see
happens with
me.
me. I know it happens.
So I'm gonna put my glasses on and watch this after.
Right,
So I
right.
apologize for anyone that said anything. I'll get back to you.
Yeah, we're going to send her the link, everybody. So don't worry, Suzie she'll go back in and she will get to respond to
Thank you
everyone.
so
Thank you so
much,
much, everyone.
Suzie.
Thank
Keep
y'all
doing-
so much. You know where to find
If
me.
anybody wants
you.
information on what happened, you can go back, check the video. There's phone numbers for the police department. If anybody has like connections or anybody that knows
Yes,
anything,
all that
they're
information.
still looking. And so the phone number's there. But
Thank you, ladies.
Absolutely. And we will post
thank you.
that on
Thank
our
you, Suzie.
socials, right, Em? We'll post the production.
Yeah, I'll post the video up and I'll make like a flyer thing for the car. Yeah.
That's right. So everyone can go back and check that. So make sure you hang out, check our TikTok at Cosmos Creative TV, our Instagram at Cosmos Creative TV, and of course here on the Facebook group and on the YouTube. Yep. So Sandy's reminding us we're also live on YouTube and on Twitch. So thank you, everybody. And we'll be in touch with Suzie. So if you have any information, of course, reach out and we'll get some answers, right?
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Have a
Have a
good
good night,
one.